Good morning, friends, and welcome. Welcome to Maundy Thursday, one of the holiest days in the Christian year. Only 3 more days before Easter. Now, the word Maundy comes from an old Latin word, mandatum, which means commandment, because it was on this night when Jesus shared the Last Supper with his disciples that he gave us a new commandment. He says, "A new command I give you, to love one another." So let me share with you a portion of John's gospel concerning the Last Supper. And it's interesting that John's gospel describes the events at the Last Supper, but never mentions that it's the Last Supper and doesn't talk about Jesus sharing the cup or anything like that, but does talk about this. So I'm going to be reading from John 13, 1 through 17, and then I'm going to skip up and finish 33 through 38, okay? It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand." "No," said Peter, "you shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." "Then, Lord," Simon Peter replied, "not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well." Jesus answered, "Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean, and you are clean, though not every one of you." For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly, I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the ones who sent them. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. My children, I will be with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and just as I told the Jews, so I tell you now, where I am going, you cannot come. A new command I give you. Love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." Simon Peter asked him, "Lord, where are you going?" Jesus replied, "Where I am going you cannot follow now, but you will follow later." Peter asked, "Lord, why can't I follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." Then Jesus answered, "Will you really lay down your life for me? Very truly I tell you, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. Friends, down through the centuries, the church has associated the washing of feet with Jesus's command to love one another, and the reason is pretty clear, because that's what was going on at the Last Supper when Jesus gave them this new command. But sometimes I truly fear that we, and please hear we, not you, sometimes I fear that we in the modern church have forgotten what it means to really love each other the way Jesus taught us to, and to demonstrate the humility and the love that it would take to be able to truly kneel at somebody's feet and wash their feet. Now, in Jesus's day and culture, There were very few paved roads, so you need to understand that people normally walked around with sandals or sometimes even bare feet, and they were dusty roads, and so puffy clouds of dust rose with every single step. And obviously, by the time you reached your destination, your feet were filthy, and people didn't want those filthy feet coming into their house. And so it was the job of the host to wash the feet of guests. It was expected of you as being good hosts. But this was an awful job. It was a terrible job. And so the lowliest person in the household always took that job. If you could afford it, a slave would do it, or a servant would do it. If you couldn't afford a slave or servant, then the youngest child in the family would get a basin and a towel and wash the feet and dry them. It was a humiliating job. Now, for a long time, kings of European countries would set the example for this by washing the feet of their subjects on Maundy Thursday. And in England, people known as the yeomen of the laundry would wash the feet of the poor in the presence of the King of England. I'm not sure how that served as humility in the case of the kings, but even that, Queen Elizabeth doesn't even go that far anymore. But Pope Francis, the most Protestant of all popes, and trust me when I say that, I'm saying that with all the respect and honor due him, because he is a great man, I really believe. Well, Pope Francis gets it. See, last year on Maundy Thursday, the Pope celebrated the Mass of the Lord's Supper in a prison in Velletri, Italy. And Pope Francis, when the inmates were gathered, thanked them for their warm welcome and said that he had received a beautiful letter from several of them. And then he reflected briefly on Jesus' washing of the feet of the disciples. And he said that Jesus carried out this act of service, which was usually done by slaves, because Jesus was able to love so completely. He didn't really care that culture would see it as a lowly thing, as a humble thing. Love does what love needs to do to help each other. Pope Francis said, "He, the Lord, who contained himself in all power, carries out the gesture of a slave." And then he reminded us all that Jesus not only did it, but Jesus asks us to do it as well. And the Pope went on to say, "Be brothers in service, not in ambition, but in service." And then after the homily, Pope Francis washed the feet of 12 prisoners, like 12 disciples, washed the feet of 12 prisoners who came from various parts of the world. 9 were Italian. There was one from Brazil, one from the Ivory Coast, and one from Morocco. Now, friends, is it just a pipe dream to believe that we can actually love that well? That we can actually love that powerfully? That we can love the way Jesus commanded us to love in the upper room on this night so many years ago? You know, there's one thing for sure. Love is without question, love is the most powerful force on planet Earth. And until we learn to love, really love each other, we can forget about stooping to wash each other's feet, wash our neighbor's feet. Whether that washing of the feet is taken literally or whether we want to translate washing each other's feet into doing the shopping for the shut-in of someone who cannot get out in this coronavirus and bringing it to them. Whether we translate washing feet into doing the yard work for the family who recently lost their husband in a recent tragedy. You see, acts of love, including literally washing of feet, will never take place if we try to do it on our own, if we try to muster up that kind of love on our own. Because here's the thing, we don't have that kind of love for each other. We just don't. And I'm not being mean. I'm just saying we can't fly. We can't love that way as human beings. Love like that is only possible when we surrender control of our lives and give control to God and let God love through us. Let the Holy Spirit come into us and love each other through, or let God love each other through us. Jesus said, "Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. I tell you the truth. No servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him." Listen to this. "Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." Friends, the truth of Jesus is still true today. Let us love one another the way Christ loves us. Thanks for joining us, friends, and please be with us tonight as we gather right at 7 o'clock and have the bread and have some juice ready, because we are going to celebrate Holy Communion together on this day where we celebrate when Christ instituted the Last Supper. So again, it doesn't really matter what kind of bread or what kind of juice, but just be ready, because as a community united in the Holy Spirit of God, we're going to be able to share true Holy Communion. I'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock. God bless you. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you again.